Well, hello again, and welcome back to the Wives Club. My name is Margaret Brown, and I am just like you. I'm a fellow patron of Mr. Kevin Samuels' private Patreon group, The Family, and I'm just an average woman who booked a session with Mr. Samuels to ask permission to stand up a community within the privacy of the Patreon group. To improve our ethnic image and to increase the pool of marriage minded women. I am 45. I'm in the Atlanta area. I am a divorcee. Um, I was married at 25 for 10 years, and I have two boys, a high schooler and a middle schooler. And since the divorce, I've been in a long term relationship with a high value man for another 10 years. So, what we do here is we use Kevin's shows as a lesson plan to go over our takeaways, action items, anything that I can share, mistakes that I've made that hopefully you all can avoid, so that we can all improve our outcome. So I booked a session with Kevin to ask permission, and he has given us permission. He actually coined the name The Wives Club, and he is watching us from the cloud. So let's go ahead and get started. Kevin's show last night was on YouTube, and it was entitled It's Over for These. Another great show and another striking title. But I've captured some notes here, and I usually have about 10 things that were takeaways for me. And stay tuned because I'm hoping to bring you all into the conversation. Any ladies, the Wives Club is open to former wives and future wives and current wives. Anyone who wants to share their lessons learned or takeaways from Kevin's shows. So let's get started. Number one, hot girl summer is over. It's definitely colder here in the Atlanta area. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with having your fun, but I think the hot girl summer year round, we all know that that is not sustainable. And I think Kevin said it turned into fat girl fall and broke girl winter. I might have gotten the terms wrong, but he has shared that this time of year, especially when we're all getting ready to celebrate the holidays with our loved ones, it does shine a light that if you haven't been taking time to put value into relationships, this can be a very lonely time of year, and we don't want that for our ladies. So let's keep in mind that the fun times are for a certain time, and that time does expire. Okay, number two. The next thing that I have that struck me from Kevin's show, he said that dating is becoming exclusive. And I thought this was really fascinating. And I think it just emphasizes, like he's been saying, a lot of us have taken dating or access to high quality dating for granted. I've shared with you all I've shared with you all that I don't have a lot of dating experience. I was married early and I have relationship experience, but I think we can all learn from each other. So I would love to hear your takeaways. But Kevin has talked about this, and I've seen it too. A lot of us who focus on our career exclusively, not in tandem with a relationship, we get to a point where we look up and those men that we thought would just be there at our beck and call, they are not. And relationships do take work. And ladies, especially those of us who are accomplished, I've struggled with this too. You think that because you're successful in other areas, it's just going to translate over to a relationship. It doesn't. It's work. We have to make it a priority and put that time into it and that expense into it, because the payoff is definitely there. And the men that are the type of men that we want, they are always watching to see how seriously we are taking a relationship with them. So, if you want to avoid the hookup culture that is very common now, and again, we all have our time when there's, fun, a tip that I would advise, if I may, is just to keep that completely separate from the pool of men that you would get serious with, right? We've talked about this in another video. There are boys that are for fun, and then there are boys that, you would want to meet the family. So just make sure that you're able to keep those things in those separate boxes. Whether it means a move for you, and definitely watch how wild you get on social media. It seems like it's fun, but the internet is forever. So keep that in mind. Okay, number three, Kevin mentioned something about D20, and it slips my mind. I was feverishly taking notes, but I think he was talking about, the top 20% of men that, let's face it, most ladies want because they are able to provide, right? And they are able to take that burden off. But, I would argue that these lessons do apply to all men who want a good woman in their life. The way that we show respect, the way that we nurture and we care for them and stay feminine, you know it applies to all men. I'll use myself as an example. The relationship that I'm in, I know, as an average woman, I wouldn't hold a candle to someone who's, younger and, more fit and didn't have children. But this is somebody that I've known for a long time. And when I met, the relationship that I'm in now, my man, he wasn't a high value man, but I saw the value in where he was going. He was able to articulate his goal, and I fell in love with that and wanted to align myself with that. And years go by, and you're quietly just being dedicated to his purpose, and then the payoff comes. So again, do not dismiss any man who may not be there yet, because if he has the potential on his own, not one that you have to push that rope uphill, but if he's doing it and he's going somewhere with or without you, that's definitely one to keep your eye on, ladies. Number four, Kevin said, boss women must marry down. And ladies, I'm telling you, this is a hard pill to swallow, but it is true. Men do not want our competition. They want our support. And I've given this example before, but I've been in executive roles, most recently with the Coca-Cola company here in Atlanta. And, I loved the work that I did, but I had a crazy commute, and I would try and come home and put a meal together and take care of kids. And you can just imagine what's left. I am so grateful that the pandemic kind of sat me down, and I was one of those that realized I'm so much happier at home. You just kind of like salmon, right? Everybody's going swimming in that direction. And then I just started, exercising more and eating better and sleeping better and just being all around more. I've always been feminine, but just so much more agreeable because I wasn't stressed the what out. Long story short, I've said this before, a software company found me on LinkedIn and reached out to me, and I didn't, respond at first because I was trying to go for that director role. But their first question to me in the phone screen was, what would you say to a 100% remote position even after the pandemic? The rest is history. I jumped at the chance to be able to stay home, where I'm happier and healthier and able to take better care of the ones that I love. And my point is that after I made the decision, my man just kind of, fell back and watched me and always supportive. But he told me after I made the decision to kind of step back, he's so happy that I did. His actual quote was, I love this state of mind that you're in. And ladies, when we think about the promotion and all those things, it's great. But if it's at the cost of a relationship that's going to sustain you for life, I would not recommend making that decision. So if you brag about the bag or being a boss lady, what you're actually telling a man is that you don't need him. And I don't think that's the message that as wives we want to portray, because we definitely need our men. Number five, women want men who make them look good to other women. It's true. This one had me blushing a little bit, but Kevin was talking about that. You know, And honestly, ladies, I'll be honest, I'll never share personal details, but, my man to me is, I'm head over heels for him, but he's not classically handsome in the sense that, would just turn heads. I'm not a head turner, right? Um, but the way he carries himself and the way he handles me, um, it has other women looking like, man. I'll give you a little example. I went to a wine tasting this past weekend, and I was invited from a former coworker who is, a woman never married, kind of loud and obnoxious, thinking that she's the center of attention. And when we arrived, I greeted her and she said something slick. Oh, is that your new little thing? And, I just smiled graciously because, what's the point of responding? And just watching us throughout the night, how, like I said, he handled himself in social situations and was, the apple of my eye, right? By the end of the night, she kind of whispered to me, does he have a brother? And I thought it was funny, just 2 hours ago, you were making a little comment, but as we're winding up the night, clearly you're tired of going home alone. And this is someone who's in her 50s, has an adult son, but never married. And it's actually quite sad. My man and I were talking on the drive home, and he said, and I quote him, my God, I see why she doesn't have a man. So, ladies, just keep that in mind because it does get harder as we get older. So, make sure you take advantage of your youth and don't waste it away. Okay, let's see. Number 6. Again, Kevin said it's over for masculine women. We touched on this a little bit, and I'll just say that when women don't have a man, and we've all been there, I think a mistake that we make is kind of that sour grapes, like, no, I'm fine, I don't need a man. When on the inside, we're terrified of being alone. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I would love to marry again. I would love to be in a relationship. I would love to be a wife and mother. I think that vulnerability is part of our softness that's very appealing to men because they want to swoop in and, and fix what they can. It's just in their nature. So when you carry yourself in a way, or if you actually say out of your mouth, that you don't need a man, it signals to them, nothing to see here, nothing to do here, carry on. And then these are the women that find themselves sad and hopeless because they pushed away the very thing that could make them happy. So just, watch that masculinity. Ladies, I've taken courses, I'm taking another one. There's never too much training that we can do to remind ourselves our femininity is our superpower. So just be mindful of that. All right, let's keep going. Number 7. So Kevin was talking about Beyonce as he often has, and he was just comparing, if you are a woman, professional woman, or any other woman who's successful, you need to make sure you balance it with a certain amount of softness, right? And we've talked about this in other videos. So when you think about Beyonce, I'll compare it to Lizzo. Any of these women that are loud and talking about they have the bag, again, there's nothing wrong with being successful. We've talked about this before, but be careful leading with that and be careful bragging about it. It's always better for someone to say, oh, did you know she owns her own fill in the blank? But when you come to the table with that, that is a very masculine trait. So if you don't, know, look at some of the, celebrities or any other examples of, what to do. And oftentimes, ladies, we can find out what not to do. All right, number 8, being a professional asset. This one really warms my heart. Those of us that have been in corporate or any experience that you have that is valuable to a man, that is part of what you bring to the table. I'll give you guys an example. So I've been corporate since college, and being in corporate America, you've been laid off. That's just a part of how it goes, right? And I, luckily have always been able to land on my feet and advance because I kind of stay on top of things. But one of the things that I've you know, had access to is career placement counseling and training. Why is that important? When you're part of a restructure and they give you a package that, in addition to your full pay and benefits, they can send you off to classes that will give you like interview training, resume writing, all of these different things. So, my man, I think he's brilliant. He is brilliant. But I'll give you an example. Years ago, he didn't have a very robust LinkedIn presence. And we all know LinkedIn is very important for networking on the professional side. And that's something that I had learned in this class. and he was in a particular industry and he was trying to transition into something else, and he just kept getting stuck where he was. And so sat down with him. I said, bring your laptop over. I sat down with mine. He sat down next to me with his, and we went through, and I shared with him everything that I had learned in these classes that someone paid thousands of dollars for me. And we got great headshots for him. And now we kind of had to have this inside joke. He has more than doubled his salary. And, not because he's any different. He was always the same guy. But I took the knowledge that I had been given and I shared it with him. And he thanks me all the time. He's like, I got a call from, this big company or that big company who, saw my profile. And, I kind of joke. I'm like, oh, really? Where'd they find you? It's like, oh yeah, LinkedIn, you ought to try it sometime. So we just kind of have this joke, in between us. But what's important, that is a way that you can be an asset to a man. Yes, the physical part is there, must be there, but there's so much that you have of value, and find out how you can add, if it's helpful to your man, if you can be an asset to him with what you've learned. Okay, number 9. Kevin was talking about the track record of fitness. Ladies, I'm haunted by that too, but every time he plays it, I get up and I start doing my exercise. I'm on the bike, I'm eating my fruits and vegetables. But ladies, it's true. And like I said, a lot of us who are successful in other areas, we've got to be really honest. If fitness is a challenge for you, you're not going to be able to do it alone. I learned that the hard way. I had to hire a metabolic specialist, hire a trainer to put a plan in place. And, now I'm on my journey because I want to stay competitive and healthier. But I would offer that this track record is important for everything else that we do, right? You can't just clean up nice and show up on the date. He's going to be looking at your car, at your home, your grooming, your hygiene, on just regular days. He's got to be able to see you in your regular state. So just make sure that you're consistent with what you're presenting. And I mean, if you get all dolled up every day and that's how you go out, just make sure you can maintain that. That's not me. I'm more of a comfy and cozy, mom kind of nurturing, but I make sure that I always have, a well-stocked home, and, I'm consistent with what I know that I can do. Okay, last thing, number 10. Kevin was talking about, really looking at what we're able to bring to men. And when it comes to carrying children, ladies, take this one seriously. There is a reason children are for the young. I had my boys at 32 and 34, which is older for childbearing, but I met my ex-husband at 18 and I was married at 25 right out of college. So we used those first few years to travel. I went back to graduate school, got promoted, bought a house, all of that stuff. So when it was time to have kids, I wasn't searching. We planned for our children. My boys are 22 months apart, but ladies, there was a 5-year period where I was either pregnant, trying to get pregnant, breastfeeding, or had an infant, like a newborn. I didn't know what was on TV. I didn't know. I mean, you are just, as a new mom, you are just trying to make it to the end of the day and get a shower and a good meal in. So, children are a blessing. And, now that children aren't on the table, I'm so grateful that I took advantage of it because, it's not an option, for me anymore. So if it's something that you want to do, and please believe men, all men, they want to live forever and they do that through their children. Don't play around with that because one day you won't be able to. And there's nothing like regret when you had an opportunity and you didn't take advantage of that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. It is election day here in Atlanta, so I hope you guys go out and vote. And stay tuned. Like I said in the beginning, I'm going to try and see if we can make this interactive. If there's anybody that would like to have a conversation with me in real time about Kevin's shows and what your takeaways were, I would love to expand this out to the other patron members. So again, let's do our part to make sure, especially our younger ladies, can learn from our mistakes and we can all have better outcomes. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and stay tuned. We'll talk soon.